Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Riverman.
So, Dean, this whole online shopping, ship to home, BOPUS, all that stuff shifted the way consumers think about retail and grocery.
Yep.
But we know that those companies still want people to actually go to the store.
Oh, yeah.
In-store
there's still a lot of retail happening.
Pretty important.
In the good old brick and mortar.
Exactly.
Yes.
So now as people are getting back to being back in store, we're in this different phase of the pandemic.
That's right.
Well, they want to keep that traffic going, but they also want to figure out ways to keep people in store, get them excited, keep them buying, keep them engaged. Now, we've talked a lot about omni-channel POS on the pod before. About a way to kind of enable that whole experiential shopping in brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But what about digital displays?
Okay.
We don't talk about that quite enough.
Oh.
So that's going to be part of our topic today. We've got Jay Hutton joining us from VSBLTY. He's going to help us talk a little bit about what they call the store as a medium.
I love it.
I love it. We're going to talk about what does that mean?
Yes.
And how do you implement that with store displays?
Yes.
We're going to talk about how you use the store to maximize engagement for customers.
All right.
And also what kind of data that kind of technology can provide.
So we got a good one here.
We do. Some very interesting talking points here. I'm excited to get into this. We might actually be getting a little step closer to the unofficial film of the TEConnect podcast, Minority Report.
Just one
I'm
step
just saying,
closer.
Think about that as you're listening today.
Yes.
And maybe go back and we'll revisit that at the end and talk about that a little bit more.
Fair enough.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, let's start off today. I want to give a quick shout out to Intel, who invites you to check out TEConnect Live.
That's right.
Which was our session from VARTech 2022, where we featured over 40 ISVs to give 90-second pitches about who they are, what they're looking for in partners, and what you get by working with them.
Absolutely.
So check out the link in the show notes if you want to watch the whole show. I highly recommend it. There's lots of great companies
You're looking
there,
for some good
VSBLTY.
partners? Absolutely, yeah.
And thank you so much to Intel for sponsoring that event.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, as I mentioned today, our guest is Jay Hutton. He is the co-founder, president, and CEO of VSBLTY. Now, I will also point out, and Jay, you can address this yourself here in a moment, VSBLTY is one of these companies that's dropped all their vowels. There's no I's in here.
So if you're Google searching for it,
exactly. And it's a running gag on our show that you're not allowed to start a tech company these days without dropping your vowels. So Jay, tell us how that came to be and tell us a little bit about your day-to-day life and how you came to found VSBLTY.
So you know how when you pay a outside marketing agency a bunch of money, and what you're expected to come out with at the end of that process is something cool. We have to understand that north of 50, you're never going to understand. You just need to trust that it makes sense and that it has some level of cool attached to it. So it was a room that had maybe 12 people in it. I might have been on the higher end of the age spectrum, might have been. But I'm told that vowels are like 1995 and they're not cool anymore. We probably only have an 18-letter alphabet now. But yes, it is, I'm told, cool. And it has been reinforced as cool since. It does offer us some challenges in the SEO world, as you mentioned. So we'll try and make sure we keyword the VSBLTY, the full word, as well as the VSBLTY, our shortened version of it. But yeah, that's how we come across it. And it's now there's brand equity in it, and we're sort of too far in to change it, right?
Right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Jay. How did you get to where you are at VSBLTY?
Oh, well, so I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is number 5 startup for me. It's an illness, and I've convinced my wife that it's better than a regular job 9 to 5. I did spend the first part of my career at large corporations, learned a little bit about what I liked and what I didn't like. I had an opportunity at that time to be involved in a very large company that was just IPOing. I was employee number 60, and in 4 years, there was 13,000 employees, and it is a crazy growth. This was 93, 94 when everything was going up and to the right. The internet was being built, and the company I was working for at the time was building the internet. So that's a good place to be. And then I went from there at 29 years old thinking that, everything I touch turns to gold, which is not the case, let me tell you. I went to work for a venture capital, and I read business plans. That was my job. I found one I liked, and I convinced them to fund it, and that was the beginning of my small company emergence. And for me, I've had a couple of failures, but I've had a couple of successes too. Companies that went public, and one that exited quite nicely. The other one we're in the middle of right now, and hopefully it will turn out reasonably well for us. But I'm excited about it. It's a great category.
Great, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a great concept. I was very impressed when I went to your website when we were talking about having you on, and just kind of reading over what you do and your philosophy about about stores and digital signage and displays. And it, again, I make the joke about it, but it very much reminded me, like, hey, we always talked about Minority Report. It's one of our earliest gags on this show.
That's right.
This idea of being able to walk into a store or a mall or something and have something that's
Hi, John,
scanning your face or scanning your eyes, and telling you, like, hey, did you like those sweaters that you bought? And it's been a running gag. Like, is that actually going to happen? Well, I think you guys are getting about as close to it as we're going to get right now. So let's start off by
Dean. The character in that movie was named John. I'm not sure.
That's
if you
a good
pulled
point.
that out
Oh,
of
good
it.
point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yes.
Yep, you're right. That's a good point.
Excellent trivia.
When we started our financing, when you start financing a small company, a lot of it is your critical valuation metrics, the math of it all. And a lot of it is Hollywood, right? A lot of it is the promotion piece. So we clip the first 30 seconds for when John, the character, is wandering through the mall hallway, and he's being targeted by a Lexus ad, and he's targeted by an American Express ad that has his name on the card. This is how we began to tell our story.
Well, here we are joking about it. He's using it in the real world to pitch a VC.
Yeah, exactly. See, this is why folks like Jay are making these companies and making the money from these companies, and folks like us are just telling jokes on a podcast.
That's exactly.
So,
yeah.
Well,
both have their role. Both have their valuable role.
Well, let's get into this then. Let's start by explaining the concept that you guys have of the store as a medium. What does that mean to you, and how are stores pivoting to compete with online shopping and all the things that have pulled people away from brick and mortar, and now they're trying to get them back in and get them engaged?
Well, first thing I want to point out, just to it's an urban myth that online has taken over from bricks and mortar. It's not true. It's simply not true. The reality is that 70% of purchases, perhaps more in some regions, is still fulfilled in a physical store. COVID changed a bunch of that, but those metrics they're back to where they were before. So bricks and mortar, to Dean's point earlier, is not going anywhere. And we're now looking at ways to reimagine bricks and mortar so that we take the best part of online and we bring it into offline. So it's not competing with online, it's augmenting online. So what can I do about the physical store that benefits from some of the online experiences? And one of the things we learned during the last 6 or 7 years is that once we were able to measure audiences in physical bricks and mortar, we began to level the playing field between online and offline, because what online offers more than anything is very clear metrics on visitation, impression, attention, that sort of thing, audience profiles. When we could do that in store, and the way we do that in store is with computer vision, and initially it was unassailable because it was so expensive to do. But now that we've got, because of Intel and because of work on the processor base and because of the commoditization of camera technology, we now have the ability to measure audiences in retail. What benefit is that to us? Well, there's not a brand on the planet that doesn't want a more intimate engagement with their consumer. Not one. They speak about this all the time. And they worry about the ongoing participation and cooperation of retail when it comes to accessing their consumer. So they're interested in a direct relationship with their consumer. Every brand on the planet wants this. So we're giving the ability for the first time to deliver advertising impressions, promotion in store at the point of sale, where the moment of truth is, where we can actually act on the messaging, the brand narrative that we're getting. We can buy that which is being promoted to us. So it's about building highly engaging interactive services that benefits the consumers, that the consumers embrace, and that brands will see for the first time because they get ROI, they get measurability. And that's why I think it's going to change the landscape. Brands speak about it in terms of the data dividend. They all have legions of people that are responsible for understanding in greater granularity their consumer and their consumer shopper journey. And this is a critical part of it. You might even argue it's the most critical part of it, because it gets you It gets you impressions delivered right where the action happens, where decisions are made.
And I think what Jay's tapping into here is just this momentum that is now being seen in the retail space, in the space itself. I mean, when you start looking at what some of the movers and shakers, I'm using air quotes, are doing, there was the whole online world. There is the whole online world, right, and the massive amounts of media spend that goes on there, right? But to Jay's point, the reason why they've been so successful, the reason Google or Alphabet is where it is today is because they can offer some granularity, even though there's still a lot of voodoo behind Google, if you ask me.
Voodoo.
There's Google voodoo there but we won't get into there. But anyway, that's how they built their business, right? And so now you've got Amazon. Amazon, I think, just went over $2 billion in their ad spend in 2021, right? And every single one of them are kind of getting in the road. But you're starting to see a transition of some of those dollars into the medium, which is the retail space.
Right.
And I think that's why what Jay's doing is just brilliant here in the sense of, okay, well, the technology is there. It used to be a little bit of a technology hurdle to try to match where we were in the online world. I mean, in 2000, 2005, when Google was starting to ramp up, we just didn't have the kind of technology and the compute power and just where we're at today. But man, it's a tipping point, right? So I think that phrase, the store as the medium, is a really good one to start framing out in people's mind what that store can actually do.
Yeah, it took me a second to kind of wrap my mind around that when I first started looking at it. And what I realized when I thought more about it, and Jay clarified this too just now, is that the idea that when most advertising for stores, groceries, whatever it is, it's all about contacting you outside of the store and getting you there. It's always about, hey, can we send a flyer to you? Can we advertise somewhere online? Can we do a television commercial, billboard, whatever it is, something to get you to get to the store, but then not acknowledging like, hey, it's beneficial to advertise and market within the store as well, and not just the basic like shelf talkers and little signs that on sale now or check this out type stuff. People are immune and inured to that kind of stuff at this point. You go through a store, how much do you actually pay attention to everything little thing you see on all the shelves and all the little signs everywhere? People just don't. But we've talked about this in other episodes in a lot of other ways too, that we're all very comfortable and used to looking at screens. We pay attention to screens and displays. And so if you have something that can engage people when they get there and still keep that advertising and marketing flowing, and again, just keep ramping up that engagement, why would you not do that? So Jay, that's kind of where I want to get to our next question here, which is to talk about this core concept of this whole store as a medium, which is using in-store digital displays in order to drive additional purchases, especially unplanned ones. That's the stuff that people weren't planning to buy. It's not enough anymore just to put some gum and candy bars at the cash register and hope someone picks that up. You want to try to drive a bigger basket, in other ways too. So give us some of the research, some of the data behind this. Why does this work, and how did you come to decide that, hey, dynamic digital displays are the way to get people to buy more and do more once they're in store?
Well, for me, the most compelling research at a high level, starting macro, is work done by Boston Consulting Group last spring. I want to say April. And at that time, they said that this, at that point, nascent retail media network channel, which is another kind of synonymous to the store as a media channel, the idea of building retail media networks, that channel will in 4 years be worth $100 billion. And you could say that it's under 100 million at the moment. So that is mammoth growth. And if that is not hyperbolic, if that is to be believed, it is the fastest growing media channel on the history of the planet. That's faster growth than the internet itself. So that helps me when I'm talking to investors about why we're doing what we're doing and why we're spending the money we're spending, because this is the opportunity and nothing has equaled it in the internet world or in the media world for 100 years. So that's some of the metrics. But I pulled up, when I saw you were going to ask this question, I pulled up, of course, there's reams and reams of statistical data you could go through to support the hypothesis of what we've been talking about here. But I'm going to give you some critical ones. And I'm going to start with what you just mentioned about shelf talkers. An Arbitron study was done, sponsored by Nielsen, in 2021. But it was done on historical information. It wasn't just a COVID study. And the shelf talker, which is the basically the standard bearer for in-store trade marketing, if you understand what I mean by the difference, promotion marketing in retail. And how many people recall them? This is a very basic metric, but useful to look at. 3% of recall rate on shelf talkers. 3%. The equivalency on digital display, 55%. So we're talking about meteoric differences between the application of one versus the other. And you could just say it's simply the analogy could be analog to digital. People look at moving images. This is why a standard display that is static will collect less impressions than a moving display, because it's our Neanderthal brain, because it's fight or flight, it's connected to all of that. We look at images that move because we need to know whether that image is a threat. So when we incorporate video in retail, just like the YouTube generation consumes YouTube, it's related to that. So video should be your principal media platform. But 55% recalled seeing advertisement on the screen. And here are the other metrics. I'll give you 4. 19% of viewers made an unplanned purchase on something that was promoted digitally. That's increased basket right there. That's the objective. 33%. 4 out of 5 brands achieved a 33% increase in sales lift. We have one deployment in Penn Station with a very large Atlanta-based beverage company. 92% lift. Now, I'm not saying they will ever achieve that again, but that's very interesting that it is achieving that. This is the hypothesis. The moving images attract people. When they attract people, you're going to get momentum. And 74% of people noticed monitors at the point of sale, so at checkout. Now, I would argue delivering advertising impressions at the point of sale is less valuable than delivering it at an end cap or at a shelf or at a cooler, because in the latter instances, you're in the shopper journey. At the point of sale, you're at the end of the shopper journey. So you're impulse buy capable, but you're not really basket capable. You're not going to increase your basket. And the last metric, 75% of all brand purchase decisions are made at the point of sale. So only 25% of our brand choices are made prior to entering retail. So this is why it's so valuable.
Yeah,
definitely.
And as a brand manager, right? I mean, these people are fighting for that that territory, right? So I've decided to buy soap. I need soap, but what soap am I going to buy? Right. And so you're saying that brand decision quite largely is left at the point of purchase, right? I mean, I can be influenced into whatever I'm buying right then and there. That's a pretty powerful one. And I think that's what part of the equation of why this is going to get a lot of run.
Well, I think especially like what you just mentioned, the soap idea. Most people don't have, you might have a soap that you use regularly, but you're not like committed to a certain soap brand. So
get out of my way.
So you may know, I'm going to the store and I need to buy some soap. You're not saying I need to go to the store and buy some Dial, or I'm going to buy, Irish Spring or whatever. You're not like, I know what I'm getting and that's the only thing I'm going to get. So you're right. You get there and you might be a little more influenced. If you see something that's catching your attention, is a little more dynamic, it's, you notice it out of the corner of your eye. You stop and take a moment to look at it. That again, I know we all like to think that we're not influenced by this stuff. We all like to think, advertising and marketing doesn't work on me.
Right.
We're still humans. We're animals at heart. Shiny moving thing does attract our attention, and we typically will do something with it.
It's the same reason why it works online, right? I mean, like we are creatures of behavior, right? And so the online world has gotten very good at understanding what that behavior is and serving you messaging around that, right? So like it or love it or hate it or whatever, the reality is that it is a very powerful thing, and if used correctly, can be even more impactful. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
So then Jay, let's walk through a store that's enabled with this kind of technology. What are customers seeing? Where are they seeing it? How is it personalized to, as you put it, do this whole idea of entice, engage, interact, which I think is a great way to explain this concept. What technologies at play here? Tell me what we're seeing and what's going on in the store.
Can I first, John, identify the iterations of retail, because retail should not be viewed homogeneously. It's not homogeneous. How about that? C-store, fuel and convenience, has a certain value, 7,000 to 10,000 SKUs. There's Megamart, 10 to 15,000 SKUs. There's Hypermart, which is 100,000 plus SKUs. Think of grocery. There's DIY, 50,000 SKUs. The more SKUs there are, the more potential advertisers there are. And within each of those footprints, there are certain locations that are higher value than other locations. And I'll stick to grocery for just a moment. Grocery is used to the mailed flyers. And if they have a loyalty app, the flyer will be delivered over the loyalty app. But there's a lot of people that come into the store, something in the neighborhood of 70%, that do not have the loyalty app. So is there an opportunity to do a kiosk, an at entrance display that shows the digital flyers and it identifies the promotion? And that's a very high value location. The end cap, because of its traffic and frequency components, part of the building blocks of advertising value is traffic and frequency, right? So end cap is valuable as well. The cooler, because it's such a large format, number one, and number two, because it's a destination location. I'm going to the store to buy my Bud Light. That is another high value. So, and lastly, although never to be forgotten because it's coming on strong, is the shelf itself. So each of those platforms can become digital. They're, of course, worth different values in the advertising lexicon, but each of them create brand new values. So the entice, engage, interact piece is something that's part of visibility. That's our nomenclature. And the idea is I'm going to measure people that have the opportunity to walk by, opportunity to see, which is an ad metric. That's a acronym used in advertising, OTS, opportunity to see, which is just a traffic metric. But I want to play something that will engage you. So I want to turn your body, John. If you're walking, I want to turn your body to the screen. And then I want to get you to approach the screen. So OTS, you're a visible impression, and you're engaged, and now you're interacting. Now you're talking to the screen directly as a consumer. We measure the entire funnel. So we can tell Coca-Cola 70% of the people that were in the OTS bucket became into the engage bucket. And then 20% of them went into the interact bucket. This is a great way of building value for them because they will assign an impression value and advertising value differently. OTS has a certain value, lower. Engage has a higher value. Interact has the highest value. So this creates a really interesting and easy to understand ecosystem for brand buyers who are looking to provide engagement and experiential, as you said at the beginning of the podcast, in store.
Think about the language that we're developing here and how it relates to like online type of a world, right? I mean, that's a brilliant way to kind of define the space. Right. And it's a needed part of the language in order to get these brand managers to understand the value of the medium, well, in this case, the digital display, or the interactive display, or whatever is being used to entice people into it. But you know, it's gotten very sophisticated in the online world, where we talk about, oh, the mouse is hovering, and you can heat map where people are on a particular thing, and then you get click-throughs. So you get impressions, you get click-throughs, you get and that's showing momentum towards buy. Well, what he just described is showing a momentum towards buy, but in the brick and mortar type of space that really didn't exist today. So you need those types of analytics to get in there. And one of the other wonderful things about this, where we are, this nexus of where we are on the technology front, is that the technology is now no longer, I mentioned it earlier, is no longer the barrier to entry here. You know, back in the day, because I came out of digital signage, you know, in the early 2000s, you're throwing up plasma monitors that cost $6, $7, $8 grand, and it's a 32-inch monitor, and there's, you know, and there's not the connectivity and stuff like that. So it was very limited by the technology. All that's kind of gone away. You know, the cost of the tech is becoming less and less of an issue. The power of the compute behind the tech is really getting us to a place where this type of analytics, the AI kind of behind the scenes, is really going to start driving the language that we iterate and we talk to brands about, and to get them to invest in it, right? So a lot of things are kind of in flux here, starting to change, but at the same time kind of molding around this store as a medium.
And I'll be honest, I would be much more inclined to spend time in a store that offer this kind of, you know, technology.
Sure.
And just as an example, I've been in a few stores now where the cooler digital displays.
Oh, right.
Love those. I remember the first time I came across that, I think I was just in this store for just a random picking up some extra grocery stuff between trips. and happened to turn and walk down the aisle. I think I was on my way to the checkout where, all the sodas and teas and all the, just the single bottle drinks are. And they had the nice new digital displays up there. And I found myself stopping. I did exactly what Jay mentioned. I stopped, I saw it, I turned, I looked, I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I know from my days in retail and what a lot of what I understand about groceries too, that there's always a lot of battling for the middle space, like that eye level, where our eye typically goes when you go into a grocery store.
Yep.
I know we're talking a lot about grocery, but I think that's, there's a very dynamic use obviously for this in grocery in particular, where where your eye gets drawn to, and that's where all the brands want to compete, the top brands, and fight for the most space and pay the most money. Because that the top is the one most people don't tend to look at. The bottom definitely they're not looking at. But I feel like when you incorporate these displays, that kind of goes away a little bit. And I think maybe it gives a little bit more leverage for every brand to kind of, no matter where they're sitting on the shelf, to not feel like, I've got to fight for this space in the middle. Because when you look at that display, it's just so dynamic and lovely, and it's not tilted in or shadowed in any way. You can see every bit of it, and you're more attracted to it. And I find myself looking all over and going, wow, I want to check out everything that's here. And I honestly think the first time I saw it, I did walk up and open up one of those coolers and grab a drink out just because it got my eye. I was like, I'd like a Mountain Dew right now. Sure. So I love this stuff.
Especially if it's refreshing as what I just saw.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they made it look so good. They had it shift over to pouring into a glass. Yeah, it looked fantastic. So I love this stuff, and I like what we're talking about here. So Jay, Dean mentioned briefly a little bit about analytics and the data here. And I think that's another important aspect of this that I want us to get into, because I know you're doing some stuff here with machine vision, and there's opportunities to gather data from the customers that are engaging with these platforms, and you talked about the rates of advertising and the OTS and all this stuff. So what kind of data do retailers get from these displays? And contrary to that, or in addition to that, how are they using that data? How's it going to help them out?
So that's a very interesting question, and speaks kind of equally well to the dynamics of purchasing decisions. If you allow me to address that, and then I'll jump into that because they're very closely tied. We all know retail. We know retail make a 2 to 3% gross margin or net margin. They're never going to invest in this technology. No matter how much the technology has dropped in price, it's just never going to happen. So for the most part, from a global point of view, this is a brand initiative. Brands sponsor this. And when we build, the reason why we worked so aggressively with Intel to crack the code of the financial model is we knew that somebody had to crack the code so that a retailer could see how their shelf, their real estate could be leveraged to create a digital platform that they didn't have to invest in, but they would benefit from. So the idea here is we bring in financial parties, we bring in logistics parties, we bring in all of that to the table, so the retailer can make a very easy decision about whether or not to leverage his shelf and then participate on the back end of the influx of brand new revenue created by the media. But what is that data? That data is, and by the way, as I said before, every brand wants data. You could talk to a brand person that knows a little bit about online, and they will give you pages and pages and pages of the analytics they do online. We're doing something similar in retail. So age, gender, dwell time in aisle, dwell time in store, dwell time against signage, emotional engagement. We can do creative A/B testing because it's online. I can test the energy drink in Florida to 25 to 35-year-old males. I can test the different creative to the same population in Chicago, and I can compare the two in real time. Because it's digital, I have that ability to do it. And because it's able to drive content based upon what the camera sees, demographically speaking, we've got some really cool. We all know that the more you can personalize your message, the more valuable that message is. So we've got some incredible opportunity. We're just scratching the surface. Where it's going, if I may just quickly finish my comment with this, where it's going is the integration of first and third party data. What do I mean by that? Point of sale data, mobile attribution data, the movements of phones within stores. Once I've got point of sale data, now I can connect dwell time at a display to transaction log. Now I've got conversion, the holy grail. Now I can tell an advertiser with some inference, your advertisement that happened at this time generated this yield on the transaction log. We've never been in a place before. The internet can never do that. except for online fulfillment. So be able to do that in a store for an advertiser creates another element of compelling yield benefit.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
no
being
doubt.
able to start connecting that, like you said, we're getting closer to the Minority Report.
I think so.
The ability to do that here, but these are critical things, concepts, if you will. We're gonna have to be able to tackle it to get in there, but to be able to prove, if you will, the sales are happening and give people the qualitative data behind it in a way that's unlike before. This is the revolution that's going to be happening in the space.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's. I like the idea of, we talk about Minority Report as the joke end all be all kind of thing. But I think we're still a ways away from, personal identifiers, exact personal identifiers. That you get into sticky realms of privacy and stuff there.
That's right.
But there's no reason you can't do this and identify enough kind of demographic information to at least target. Okay,
absolutely.
Let's say a mom comes in and she's got 2 kids with her. And if you can identify that there's a mother with 2 children and put up some kind of advertising that is specific to, hey, looking for a quick meal for the family kind of thing, or, shop the latest, hottest toys or something like that. Something that, can speak to them in particular without having to, specifically say like, hello, Susie, I see you're here with little Jimmy and Johnny.
Right.
Like you don't want to necessarily get, people don't necessarily want that creep factor just yet.
Right.
But there's no reason why you can't do something with some of the basic information that can, again, just all lead to, to this, the holy grail then in retail and in grocery of, I just want people to buy more while they're here. I want them to think about buying more. I don't want them to come in for their one item and leave with one item. I want them to come in for one item and leave with 6. And anything you can do to get there is amazing. And I, as a marketing geek, you are one too, like hearing about the opportunity to gather this kind of data is just, it's exciting.
When you make a claim that you're going to go up to 100, was it 100 billion, Jay? Is that the number that you, in 4 years, is the potential spend that's going to be happening on these retail media networks, if you will? Yeah, that's a lot of money. Yeah. That's a lot of money, right? There's a lot of gravity around
I wonder if they need a couple podcasters for any of these retail media networks. That could be our night gig.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, if you're a VAR and you're wondering, how do I get in on this? We're going to get to that in just a moment here with our Value of the VAR segment. But first, I want to, as always, thank our TEConnect members.
Yep.
Those who fund and sponsor our program and the podcast in particular. Of course, Intel is one of those program sponsors. We appreciate them. And we very much appreciate all of the amazing software companies they've brought into our ecosphere, like Visibility. We love having you guys in here, if nothing else, one, just to find interesting new partners, and also to great guests for us to bring on the show to talk about this stuff. But hey, as always, if you like the show, you've got a few options. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, hit the like button, hit subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, tell us what you thought about this episode, your thoughts on what we've discussed. If you're listening on a podcast platform of your choice, if there's an opportunity to leave a rating and review, please do that, as always, especially on iTunes. It's a great way to help grow our audience and
how people find us. Yep,
exactly. And for that matter, if there's someone in the business that you want to share something about this with, I mean, maybe not your competition, maybe you're like, hey, I want to give them a leg out, but a colleague or somebody in a different part of the industry that you want to share the podcast with, please do that. We always love to. The word of mouth is a big part of what helps us out there. Of course, as always, if you have ideas for the show, we are always interested in learning.
Always
what you
looking for good ideas.
Want to know about. What do you want on the show? Who do you want us to be talking to? What topics you want us to talk about? There's always a link in the show notes where you can drop us an idea for the show. And just for submitting an idea, even if we don't use it, if it's not one that really works for us, we will still send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt.
That's right.
Very comfortable, fuzzy, soft t-shirt.
Very nice. Yes.
I mean, who doesn't need another t-shirt?
You wear it with pride.
Exactly.
Yes.
And of course, as always, if you want to stay in touch with us, find out what we're talking about, or just reach out to us at any time, you can always find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod. You can also email us TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up with our 2 recurring segments. Let's start with our value of the VAR.
Yep.
Because as I mentioned, VARs might be listening to this and thinking, like, this sounds cool.
Yep.
What do I get out of it?
I see this thing happening in my space. Yeah. Now, how do I start taking advantage
How do I get in on this? So Jay, help us out here. How do VARs get in on it? What should they be looking for with their retail and grocery customers? And how does Visibility going to help them get an opportunity to push through?
The thing about VARs is they have reach into places that it would be impossible to get as an organization that's got a direct outreach capability. And we have a direct outreach capability, of course, but our go-to-market is through the VARs. They've got relationship, they've got local presence, As you can imagine, there's a lot of logistical moving parts as this thing gets deployed, and those are all perfectly suited for VAR engagement. When this network reaches 100 billion in size, it will be a quilt of networks across the U.S. There'll be the big ones, Walmart, Kroger, Target, you can imagine. And then there'll be smaller ones that are stitched together that can be purchased by an advertiser as a conglomerate, a network, like a Fox News affiliate. If I could use the broadcast analogy. The VARs are going to be critical to building that second tier of retail media networks. And we will bring the expertise, we'll bring the financing, we'll bring all the other pieces, but the VARs will bring us the components that we cannot possibly scale and build in time, which is the relationship, the local feel on the ground, and we'll be exposing them to a recurring revenue model, which every VAR on the planet is interested in looking at right now. So there's a real significant value for the VARs, in my opinion, and we can't be successful without them.
How do VARs get into this? We always talk about partners, right? Yep. We talked about the VAR 2.0's got to be partner assisted in order to grow. Yeah. You need partners like VSBLTY who know their stuff, if I could just be perfectly frank, and have a solution that you can walk in the door, even in the SMB world. You know, I know that we talk a lot because it's just easy to convey the Targets of the world and the Walmarts and stuff like that. But this has an implication. It's going to have an implication all the way down to the small mom and pop. The media networks are being built out. I love the analogy. Thank you of a quilt because you're dead on there, Jay. I mean, you're right. These media networks are going to be fueled by these little smaller networks, but the infrastructure to do that is in place today. There are ways in which these media buyers can go out and they can buy into the small realm. So it's going to be a little bit of a land grab. And if you're a reseller out there, you got to get to know this technology a little bit. You got to get to know great people like Jay and the folks over at VSBLTY so that you can now start taking advantage of that. And I love it. Tap into that recurring revenue. Yeah. You know,
I love this whole idea, this whole like kind of a regional network thing, because it makes me think of, and everybody knows this, wherever region you live in, you've got some like regional stuff that you're used to in your area that you'll see at a lot of different stores. Like again, I'm going to think back to like the grocery and C-store analogy.
Yep.
So I think of our local area. We live in the Cincinnati area. And every season when the Bengals start a new season, like a Houday beer will come out or a Houday, label for a certain type of beer might come out. Or we have Get-A Fest every year in this area.
Yeah. Get-A what?
Yeah. And people are like, what's Get-A?
What the hell's that?
But I think of that kind of stuff. Like imagine if all these stores suddenly start stocking this stuff around these regional events or certain times of the year. And imagine if you have, if you're, helping them tap into this network of advertising where the second that a release like that comes out and it's available in store, there's advertising popping up out there. And again, it's getting blanketed out to everybody in an entire region. It's not just, not just the big dogs, not just the top market stores, but some of the mom and pop and the smaller SMB
even
stores.
More so into those folks. Yeah. Absolutely. That's where programmatic digital out of home is going, from that perspective.
Yep, very much so. So yeah, again, it's that whole idea of, find yourself good partners that can help you drive business in new directions and new ways. And I think VSBLTY is clearly one of those. That's the fact that Jay said, "Hey, we can't do this without the VARs. We need your help." That should be your giveaway right there. That these guys are ready to help.
Well, think of the scale that needs to happen to get to 100 billion. I mean, that's big scale.
Yeah, that
even
is.
When you have Amazons of the world in the 2 billion range, okay, there's still a lot of range. And I know that wasn't in store, but just trying to make the equation. Right. Oh man, there's a lot of
you want a piece of that. That's not a growth that you want to just let slip on by. I'll get into it eventually.
The next one.
Yeah. I'll go for the next 100 billion. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's wrap things up as always with our favorite segment, What's TEConnecting with you?
Yes.
This is where we get to talk about something in the broader world of science, tech, innovation, something that got our interest, has caught our attention that we wanted to talk about. So Jay, I'll let you start. What's TEConnecting with you right now?
Well, I don't want to sound myopic. I'm going to in a second, but there are actually two things that I'm very interested in. One I get paid to be interested in, but I would be anyway. And the second is a unique area for me. I'm interested in the ethics of AI. I'm not in the Elon Musk camp that the robots are going to take over the world. We ought to be really scared of that. I don't believe that that's a problem, but I do believe we have a compelling issue. And that is we as an industry are not asserting regulation on ourselves. And when we don't, government will. And government will screw it up. So we have to make sure as an organization we get in front of AI ethics. And right now we're not. We're being led, not leading. So that's an important and passionate topic for me. The second one, which has nothing to do with the technology that I spend my day to day in, and might be a controversial, but I'm really interested in nano-nuke. I'm really interested in small footprint, clean energy. Even though it's, in some ways negative to some populations, a nano-nuke the size of a car can fuel a city or multiple cities. Man, we should be looking at that, not going the other way, which is decommissioning nuclear plants and that sort of thing.
I agree. I brought that up.
I say
a couple
like the modular
ago.
nuclear plants,
the modular small one. And there's one in Idaho. I think that they're gonna implement, which I think is great. I mean, look, there's renewables, right? There's wind, there's solar, but at the end of the road, you still need some kind of backup. Even when some of the nuclear it's got a
or at least a bridge to get us to where we need
really
to be,
bad run. I'm not saying that you can't. There still is the issue with getting rid of the waste, but there's a way. But that's the only issue out there, and we can tackle that. There's ways to tackle that. So it is. It's something that the world needs to look at because I think you said it once. People aren't. It's not like we're going to unplug stuff. Electricity is not going away.
Right.
The usage is only going up, and it's a clear way to tackle that. If you ask me.
Definitely. Well, and I like that you mentioned the AI stuff there too, because that was, I think, just last week. My TEConnecting was about a book apparently that had come out from a couple philosophers, like philosophy professors, who had said that basically like they don't think that the same way. They don't think AI is going to like take over the world and dominate humans, but that it's that it's almost impossible for that to actually happen. But yes, to your point, that there still needs to be some ethics around it, some control around it,
and governing and guardrails.
We've got to figure out where the guardrails are before it gets out of control too much.
That's right.
So
that's right.
In a different way. Sure. All right, Dean, what's TEConnecting with you right now?
So I came across an article that is kind of interesting. What kind of grabbed me here is it's around robotics. Robots are complex and expensive to program. That's why so many businesses need automation, but still haven't adopted them. So the whole idea around this article, and apparently this company called Ally Robotics, I don't know who they are, but their claim to fame here is that they can implement robotics without actually having to program the robot. So how does it learn? It learns by watching whatever you want it to do. Okay. And so basically it's an arm, and they're starting to use it in the QSR space, like, flipping burgers or the Fry Daddy type of thing. But again, what's revolutionary here for this particular company is that their claim is that you don't have to like sit down with a bunch of programmers and say, oh, okay, we want the arm to articulate,
right. You don't have to measure out every tiny
No. They're using machine vision. Okay, just show us what you want it to do. And so you do it a couple times, and then the arm starts doing it. And to me, that's like, duh. It just seems like, and so their claim is 70% less to operate their equipment that can understand and learn off of what the physical activity you want it to do. Right, that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, that might be a way to fast track some of the robotics in a variety of spaces.
Yeah,
of course,
definitely.
They're like, well, this could go everywhere. Of course, it could. But I thought that was really that's a unique way of getting into.
So like almost like a mimicry kind of thing that you're basically doing with machine vision.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Here's my pitch, because we were joking about the tech companies without the vowels.
Oh boy.
Somebody needs to come up with like some kind of software that's called Mimic, but it's MMC. That's it. Mimic.
Well, now we already have the name of the company.
There you go. Probably somebody's already got that. Second this gets out there, someone's going to copyright it and make millions of dollars off of it, and we're going to be like,
it's both a name and an acronym.
See, right? Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah,
better.
I guarantee you. Yeah, you can come up with some kind of acronym around it. Yep, I love it. So.
What's TEConnecting with you, John?
All right, so typically Harry Potter's not really a place we think about technology, right?
Correct.
It's more magic,
based,
fantasy, fantasy, right? But now the legendary sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke once said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, though.
Oh.
So, maybe what somebody might think of as magic could actually be highly advanced technology.
Okay,
If someone came to us with some super advanced technology, or think back even, I don't know, a few hundred years ago, some of the tech we have today, people might see that and burn us at the stake,
Right. There's a picture behind that glass.
Exactly.
What is that?
Your devil's window or something, So, I say this because there's a company who apparently is working on a concept from Harry Potter called the invisibility cloak.
Oh.
Now, we're far way off from how they use it in that, where you literally just pull a cloak over yourself and no one can see you and you're invisible. But There's a company called Volback who's been working on kind of some different projects over the years, and there's been other iterations of invisibility technology, and there's also been people who've said it is theoretically impossible. But they've come up with something that kind of gets you a step there without necessarily the entire way there. They've created a thermal camo jacket. So this is the first step where they basically are infusing it with graphene material that can fool infrared cameras. Let me give you the quick little specs of how this jacket's set up.
I got you. Right.
So there's 42 panels apparently inside the jacket. There's 42 panels of graphene around 5 centimeters square that are attached to the outside of a jacket. And then basically they can control it with an electric current. They shift the electrons just enough so that a thermal camera no longer reads the heat signature anymore.
Gotcha.
And basically, you light enough of them up, can't read it anymore. It's almost like pixelated in a way. Like, you have enough panels where you can do them all one at a time. Like the demonstration they show on the article is like a quick little video of like it looking like a smiley face. They turn it on where it looks like just the patches that have a smiley face.
Got it.
So again, we're a long way away from full invisibility. We're just talking about to thermal.
Unfortunately,
cameras.
I can already see the implication of that in military, right? Like
Well,
how do you
course.
thwart
Of course, that's exactly where I'm sure this is going.
Outfit the other team with this technology. Now they can't thermally see you.
Exactly. And basically, people were saying, well, that's great, but you're still not going to get around to full-on invisibility. But their point is, well, hey, if we're able to find a way to kind of counteract this part of the visible spectrum, who's to say we couldn't figure out how to get to other parts of the visible spectrum
interesting.
in the future? So at least they're being cognizant of the fact that like full-on invisibility is probably unlikely. But we can get there for some practical purposes and reasons. And yes, to your point, I'm sure the military application would be a big
although I
one
can
with
say
this
that
one.
Jay is not going to be a backer of this technology because we don't want people cloaking themselves invisible as they're walking around the retail space.
Yeah,
we need to see that.
Be a little contradictory to your current business there if you can't see anybody.
We'd have to introduce radar detection.
There you go. See, there's always a foil.
There you go. Yeah. Like, hello, John. I see that you're here in your invisibility cloak,
but we can still see you.
Do you need new batteries for that today? Yeah. All right. Well, that's what's tech connecting with us. Jay Hutton from Visibility. Thank you so much for joining us
Thanks,
today.
Jay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
As always, stay connected with us, folks. And hey, maybe look for your own visibility cloak. Find yourself a nano-nuke. Now, when you said nano-nuke, I totally thought that was like, like, I don't know, a miniature nuclear bomb. Just
right.
like, you blow up a part of your backyard or something for excavation. I don't know. And as always, folks, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO. All right, if you're looking for the kind of displays that are going to stand out and help entice and engage customers to enable this whole store as a medium thing that we talked about.
Yep.
Look no further than ELO's large format interactive digital signage. With size options from 32 to 65 inches, ELO offers touchscreens that add brilliant, interactive canvases to any environment with sleek, slim designs built to withstand the rigors of continuous commercial use. Like if there's kids banging on them.
Really important, absolutely.
People tapping them like crazy because they don't know where to touch.
Commercial use, they own that space.
Yeah.
They got it.
Exactly. Now, we know ELO prides itself on modularity and choice for any need. So here are just a few of the options that are available with these displays. PCAP or infrared touch technology.
Very nice.
You can wear your infrared jacket though, if your invisibility cloak.
Cloaking.
If you don't want to be seen.
Right.
Anti-friction glass, touch-through capability, 4K options, computer modules, Edge Connect peripherals. I mean,
what more do you need?
Everything.
Yeah, it's got the edge compute there to drive what we just talked about with visibility.
Exactly. Yeah. ELO backs all of this up with a minimum 3-year warranties and optional on-site exchange if service is needed. Again, check out the link in the show notes to browse the options, specs, and to buy now. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by Zebra. We just talked about the all the great data collection opportunities in store, right, Dean?
Yes.
Well, why not put that data into the palm of your employees' hands?
Ooh.
Introducing the TC53 and TC58, the first members of a new generation of Zebra mobile computers designed to do more.
There you go.
All right, what makes these devices so different? New hardware redefines mobile computing performance. New solutions and sensor technologies, as well as the latest and fastest wireless technologies, including 5G, Wi-Fi 6E, and CBRS, redefine the world of possibilities. It's a class-leading full HD plus 6-inch display that helps workers see more, do more, and scroll less.
Even better.
Even better. With Zebra-only mobility DNA tools, the TC53 and TC58 offer a built-in advantage, maximizing user productivity while minimizing IT complexities throughout the entire device lifecycle. Also, new manufacturing technologies make them thinner, yet even more rugged. You want a giant, clunky device.
No, you don't.
People want their smartphone type feel.
Exactly,
all
it's got to feel like what they are. Right.
Exactly. The TC53 and 58 mobile computers offer a new generation of data collection, a new level of operational efficiency, and a new level of workforce productivity, driving new possibilities into the world of mobility. To learn more and find resources like spec sheets, a battle card, and more tools that will help you sell, check out the link in the show notes.